congrats on this movie. It is amazing. It's my favorite movie of the year, and it's the ultimate dad movie, and I mean that in the best way.
Oh, thank you, mate. I'm very happy to hear it. So, but given that you enjoyed it so much and you're clearly not a dad, why is it the ultimate dad movie?
Hi, Bart. My name is Thomas Alanidas with OneTakeNews. How are you today?
Hey, Thomas, good to see you. Yeah, I'm good, man.
Good to
How you
see
doing?
you. Welcome to Toronto, and congrats on this movie. It is amazing. It's my favorite movie of the year, and it's the ultimate dad movie, and I mean that in the best way. It's gonna be watched for years to come. Seriously, you killed it with this.
Oh, thank you, mate. I'm very happy to hear it. So, but given that you enjoyed it so much and you're clearly not a dad, why is it the ultimate dad movie?
It's one of those movies that you're going to see on cable on a Sunday afternoon. Stop whatever you're doing and just watch it. That's what I call a dad movie. It's one of those
Got
movies my
it.
dad's going to call me from upstairs to watch with him. Godfather, Matrix, Gladiator. This is going to be on the list now.
All right, I'll take it. Love it.
No, it's the best compliment I can give a movie, honestly. First question. I'm so curious about this from every stage of this movie, from the rough cuts to the final cuts to the premieres. How many times do you actually think you've watched Crime 101?
Oh, wow. Do you know what? I was trying to think that because, often if we have a big screening like the premiere, you're like, people are like, are you going to sit through it? Are you going to watch it? And I'm like, am I? And actually, I did watch it at the LA premiere the other night, 2 nights ago. And I think it was the first time I really enjoyed it. And the audience was having such a good time and people were whooping and cheering and kind of clapping, and so that I was so happy I sat through that. In terms of how many times, wow, I couldn't put a number on it, but it'll be in the hundreds because every time you make a change, whether it's even if it's not a big one, it's gonna affect the rhythm, right? And it's gonna affect the way that the whole propulsive kind of percussion of the movie works, and so you have to watch it and watch it and watch it, and sometimes you're just punch drunk. So I'm gonna say 200 maybe. I don't know. I shudder to think.
That's the most I've ever heard from any director, by the way. I
All
hope you
right,
know that.
give me an average. Give me an average because I may be way over. So
I spoke to Edgar Wright for The Running Man, and he told me 60 times. Nia DaCosta for The Bone Temple told me around 100.
okay, maybe all right, I'm gonna say north of. Nia's actually a very good friend of mine, and I'm gonna say I think I'm gonna have watched mine more than she watched hers.
Amazing. And with that in mind, what's the one scene or sequence in this movie you never get sick of watching?
I love the opening because I planned that. I mean, when I say the opening, I guess I mean the opening 15, 20 minutes. I planned that very, very, very meticulously, and I guess there are lots of other. There's a car chase in the middle of it. I planned that very meticulously. I never get tired of watching those sequences, and then there's a big climactic sort of series of scenes which are very tense and suspenseful, and I'm very proud of those. So yeah, I think I couldn't pick one, but there's a whole bunch which I just, even as someone who's watched it hundreds of times, I'll just get lost in it.
That's fair. That's fair. There's a lot of great sequences. It's like picking your favorite child. I totally get it. Something else I love about this movie is your music choices. I'm a big believer in the importance of music in movies, and I love your use of music in this movie, whether it's Bryan Adams, great Canadian legend, or Bruce Springsteen. I don't actually have the album Jersey Girls on, so this is the closest I could get. I love those choices. I'm curious, as the director and the writer, how do you pick those songs as to how they're going to inform character arcs and storylines? Because I think it's more important than people realize.
I agree. I actually had imagined that I would have a lot more needle drops in the film than I ended up with. I had a playlist. I should probably share that playlist. I had a Spotify playlist that I put. Yeah, maybe you can have it as an exclusive thing. I had a I had a playlist that I listened to when we were scouting around LA, which felt to me like kind of the soundtrack to what LA sounded like, and a lot of the tracks that weren't commercial were like from Blank Mass, who's the composer, and a lot of them was everything from just a whole spectrum of different kinds of music that reflected each character. And then when I got into the edit, actually the movie didn't really want those kind of overt needle drops, in the kind of Tarantino sense. They didn't want that kind of, it just wanted to be scored. And so the composer, who's this brilliant genius called Benjamin Powers, who's also known as Blank Mass, he has this unique combination of dark, killer bass lines, very propulsive, very kind of tension filled, but also there's emotion in it as well. There's loneliness and there's pathos and all of that stuff.
For sure, for sure. And I really like you walking me through that, by the way. I'm always interested in hearing the musical process. You mentioned Tarantino, so I actually want to jump to that a bit. I feel like there's a lot of inspiration here through Tarantino, especially in the way that the movie transitions. It reminds me a lot of Pulp Fiction, or there's a Simpsons episode that does something very similar where characters will pass by each other and it'll just move on to different stories.
Smithers? What's the meaning of this slacking off?
And I think it's the best storytelling I've seen in a movie in a very long time. The way you execute it is perfect. I'm really curious. Out of all those transitions, how many of them were on in the script? How many of them did you come up with in post production?
I would have to say, I think probably, I couldn't tell you how many there are, but I would say 99% or 98% were in the script, and in the storyboards as well. Because you can't really unless you shoot those transitions and you plan them, you kind of can't retrofit them if that makes sense.
No, I totally get that. My favorite, personally, I just want to say, is the one where you have Mark Ruffalo and Chris Hemsworth buttoning up the shirts, going back and forth. I think the way you do that is absolutely brilliant. I didn't even realize that it was going back and forth until you cut it. That's how well it was done. I just want you to know that. It
Thanks,
was
love
it
it.
was amazing. Something else I love about the movie making process is the test screening process. I know a lot of directors aren't big fans of it, but I find it very fascinating from an outside view. And I know you guys tested it a few times. I know people who were there, and I heard really good things about it. I'm really curious. What was like the one thing that broke your heart to take out of the final cut because of how the test screening audiences reacted to it?
Great question. All right. Okay, so I'd never been through that test screening process before because I never made a studio film. The films I made before, the first time I watched them with an audience was basically like opening night at Sundance. But you have to listen to an audience, when they tell you that something they didn't connect with it in the way that you think they might. You got to respect that. The thing that broke my heart was there was we didn't. There's not much that we shot that isn't in the final movie. To be honest, there was a couple of scenes between Ruffalo and Jennifer Jason Leigh, who's his wife, plays his wife, and there was a scene where he is staking her. You don't know. You think he's staking out Hemsworth while Hemsworth is visiting a sex worker, and then the wife comes out. Well, you don't know it's his wife. A woman comes out, and Ruffalo follows her home, and then breaks in or goes into the house, and you realize he's been staking out his own wife, who's having an affair, and he confronts her. And you got Jennifer Jason Leigh, one of the great screen actors, and
Absolutely brilliant.
I loved the scenes so much, but I think the audience felt like it was kind of, I guess it was just holding them up from, the propulsion of the movie. So that's the thing that broke my heart to lose.
I'm sorry to hear that, but maybe we'll see it on deleted scene in Blu-ray. Going back to your background as a documentary filmmaker, in the last 6 months, I've seen two films made by documentary filmmakers that are feature films. This, which is amazing, and Tuner by Daniel Roher, which is coming out later this year. Both are amazing. And the one thing that I find in common with both of these movies is how well you guys develop your characters and you tell your stories and you tell your arcs. And I like to think that comes from your documentary background to some degree. I'm really curious, what do you think gives documentary filmmakers the upper hand in this storytelling aspect?
Oh, what an interesting question. I think probably, I can't speak for anyone else, but I think it's probably the research element. That if you do, if I'm writing those characters, all of the characters in there, I'm going to try to find the real people who exist in the real world who are as close to those characters that I'm writing, so that I can give them real layers and real depth. So I will go and find real jewelry thieves who, at the point in time that I'm communicating with them, are in prison, and I will get a conversation going and ask them as much as they're willing to tell me about their backgrounds and about their methodology and all the rest of it. And most people are willing to talk, if it's not in any way incriminating. So that will go into my building of those characters, and then obviously I'll share that with the actors, and I'll kind of try to make that as useful to the process as possible. And I do that with all of them. With Nick Nolte's character, I gave him a ton of research that we'd done. Mark Ruffalo's character is based on conversations with real LAPD robbery homicide detectives, some who are serving, some who are retired. So the more like that I think is the doc approach, really.
For sure, for sure. I really loved hearing that. They're pulling me out of here. Bart, thank you so much for sharing your time. This is my favorite movie of the year. I've been looking forward to it since CinemaCon last year, and I'm so happy it's finally out. It's amazing, seriously.
I'm thrilled that someone of your age connected with it, and I'm really happy to hear you got all that from it. So thank you for the support.
No, thank you for taking your time. Enjoy the rest of your stay in Toronto, and congrats again.
Thanks, brother.
All right, bye-bye.